The year is 1500. We are in Hanyang, the great walled capital of the Kingdom of Joseon, the city we know today as Seoul. Korea sits at the strategic heart of East Asia, a sovereign kingdom carefully balanced between two giants. To the west looms the vast Ming dynasty of China, whose civilization Korea reveres as the model of all civilization. Across the sea to the east lies Japan, fragmented and warring. While Europe is just beginning its renaissance, Korea has already invented its own alphabet, perfected movable metal type printing decades before Gutenberg, and built astronomical clocks of staggering precision. And ruling over this dazzling, refined kingdom is a tiny elite, men whose power comes from a source no Roman senator, no French duke, no Renaissance banker would ever recognize. Their power comes from books. You are one of them. You are Yangban, the scholar-aristocracy of Joseon. Your family stands among the absolute top fraction of a percent of the kingdom. Using advanced AI trained on the surviving palaces of Seoul, the meticulous, veritable records of the Joseon kings preserved over 5 centuries, the household codes of the great Confucian families, and the writings of the scholars themselves, we have reconstructed a single day in the life of Korea's ruling elite. Step past the painted gates of the great houses, but understand the founding rule of your world. Here, more than in any other society in history, the path to supreme power runs through a single, brutal arena, and it is not a battlefield. It is the examination hall. In Rome, the ultimate luxury was silence. In the Gilded Age, it was burning money. Here, the ultimate luxury and the highest pride of a man is the title of scholar. Wealth alone earns you nothing. Soldiering, no matter how brave, ranks beneath the pen. Commerce is openly despised, the merchant class scorned as low and grasping. The only true greatness, the only road to power and honor, is to spend your life mastering the Confucian classics, to pass the state examinations, and to enter the civil service as one of the wise men who govern the kingdom. Your power does not rest on a sword, on gold, or on a noble bloodline alone. It rests on a mind so trained in the wisdom of ancient sages that it is considered fit to help steer the state itself. You wake before dawn in your hanok, the great wooden mansion of your family. It is a sprawling complex of low buildings under sweeping tiled roofs. The wings arranged around interior courtyards, divided strictly between the men's quarters and the women's quarters, according to ancient Confucian rule. The floors beneath you are warm, even on the bitterest winter morning. For Korea has perfected an extraordinary system called ondol, an underfloor heating that channels the heat and smoke of a kitchen fire through stone flues beneath the rooms. You sit, sleep, eat, and read on a heated stone floor, while in much of the world, even kings shiver beneath fur blankets. This warmth is so deeply prized that it shapes the entire architecture and culture of your daily life. You are dressed by attendants in the colors of refinement, pure white robes of fine rami or silk, layered loosely, belted at the waist, the sleeves wide and graceful. Across the kingdom, white is so beloved a color that foreign visitors call Korea the land of the white-clad people, and to keep these brilliant white robes spotless requires an army of washerwomen, an open display of wealth all by itself. Upon your head goes the gat, the famous tall hat of black horsehair, its translucent crown rising stiffly above its broad brim. This hat is sacred to your status. Only a married, full-grown man of the Yangban class may wear it, and to be seen without it in public is a humiliation almost unthinkable. Your social rank, your dignity, your manhood itself, all sit balanced upon that black horsehair crown. By mid-morning, the central drama of your life begins, and it is unlike anything in the courts of Europe or the warrior halls of Japan. Your study fills with books, brushes, inkstones, and rolls of paper. For you must read. You must always be reading. The path to power in Joseon runs through the state examinations, the most punishing intellectual gauntlet of the age. To prepare, a Yangban boy begins to study the Chinese classics from the age of 5 or 6, memorizing tens of thousands of characters, mastering the writings of Confucius and his great disciples, learning to compose poetry and essays in classical Chinese with perfect calligraphy. The decisive exams come in stages, the final highest exams held in the capital before the eyes of the king himself, with only a handful of men in the entire kingdom passing each cycle. Many candidates take the exams for decades, failing again and again into late middle age. A few brilliant young men pass while still in their 20s and rocket directly into prestigious positions, lecturing kings and shaping policy while their elders bow before them. This is the most extraordinary feature of your world. A teenage prodigy with a mind sharp enough can outrank a grey-haired general. Knowledge here is the true currency of power. By late morning, you turn to the work of governance. The kingdom is administered by the civil service into which you have passed, an army of scholar officials who staff the great ministries beneath the throne. And at the heart of this government sits an institution that has no real equal in any other elite culture in history. The Joseon kings appointed councils of scholars whose entire job was to criticize the king. These censorial offices, staffed with men of fierce learning and conviction, could and did refuse to approve royal orders, lecture the monarch on his moral failings, and remonstrate with him over his behavior, his choice of advisors, even what he ate. A king who ignored their counsel was warned that history itself would judge him a tyrant. For Joseon believed, in its very bones, that the throne existed to serve righteousness, and that even the king was bound by the ancient sages. And here is perhaps the most astonishing fact of the kingdom. Nothing the king did was secret. A dedicated corps of court historians followed him constantly, recording his words and deeds, and by sacred custom, the king himself was forbidden to read what they had written. These records, the veritable records of the Joseon Dynasty, were sealed in mountain archives and survived for 500 years, an unbroken daily chronicle of a royal court. Even the king's own bowel movements were inspected each morning by his physicians for signs of his health. The man at the very top of the kingdom lived under more scrutiny than any other ruler on earth, and you, as a leading scholar official, are part of the great machine of watchers who keep him accountable to heaven. Even your family is structured by Confucian law. The household is a small kingdom in itself, governed by absolute rules. The son must obey the father, the wife must defer to the husband, the younger must yield to the elder. Marriages are arranged with the precision of treaties, designed to bind together two Yangban houses of compatible status. The bride brought in great procession to her new husband's home, where she will live under the watchful eye of her formidable mother-in-law. Daughters of the Yangban are kept secluded from the eyes of men outside the family, traveling only in covered palanquins, their lives shaped by strict propriety. But within the women's quarters, your wife and mother are powerful figures, managing the household, the servants, the family finances, and even, in many cases, quietly directing the family's affairs. And above all, looms the duty of ancestor rites. Several times a year, your entire family gathers to perform elaborate ceremonies at the ancestral altar, bowing before tablets bearing the names of your forefathers, offering them food and wine, and reaffirming the unbreakable chain of your bloodline. In the afternoon, you go out, and the rituals of public dignity are exquisite. You travel through the streets of Hanyang in a gama, an enclosed palanquin carried by servants, since a Yangban gentleman would never lower himself to walk through the dust if he could be born. The streets part before you. Commoners step aside and lower their gaze, and by ancient law, members of the despised lower classes must dismount from their horses and bow as a Yangban passes. You may stop at a friend's house to compose poetry over tea, or visit a renowned scholar to debate a fine point of philosophy, or attend a meeting of like-minded men to discuss the affairs of the state. Or you may retire to one of the elegant pavilions on a mountainside outside the capital, where wine, song, and verse flow into the evening, where you and your friends drink slowly, recite poems composed on the spot, and admire the moon rising over the pine trees, an art of refined leisure considered the highest pleasure of a cultivated man. As evening falls comes the climax of the day, the dinner of a great Yangban household. But this feast is unlike any other in this entire series. There is no roasted peacock, no flamingo tongues, no tower of sugar sculpture. The Korean feast is a feast of abundance through variety. Your low-lacquered tables are covered with dozens of small dishes, arranged with exacting symmetry. Bowls of glossy steamed rice, rich soups, grilled fish, beef simmered in soy and sesame, savory pancakes, glistening vegetables, pickled radish and cabbage in every color, mountain herbs, royal court delicacies prepared by trained kitchen women, and the famous 9-section platters that present 9 perfect little portions of jewel-like food around a center of thin wheat pancakes. The greatest royal banquets are studied like sacred rites, their menus recorded in detail, every ingredient and arrangement governed by ritual. You eat slowly, with silver chopsticks and a silver spoon, the silver itself a luxury and, it is whispered, a guard against poison, for silver tarnishes against certain toxins. The meal is accompanied by a clear, strong rice wine, refined poetry recited between courses, and the soft sound of the gyeogeum, the long zither plucked by a graceful musician. This is the Confucian ideal of the table, not gluttony, but harmony, balance, abundance, offered in perfect order. Late into the night, the guests depart through the cold, silent streets of the capital, and you sit alone in your warm, lamp-lit study. You command land, servants, and the respect of an entire kingdom. You have spent your life refining your mind into a weapon of governance, and you have earned your place among the elect. And yet your thoughts, like every great powers, turn at last to what you will leave behind. For when you die, your funeral will be the most elaborate and prolonged of any in the world. Confucian mourning is not measured in days. For a parent, a Yangban son must observe the deepest mourning for 3 full years, wearing rough hempen mourning clothes, abstaining from rich food and from public office, retreating from the world to grieve and to honor the dead. A father who fails in this duty is no longer truly a man. You will be buried with great care upon a hillside chosen by geomancers, men who study the flow of energy through mountains and water, for a perfectly chosen grave site is believed to bring fortune and harmony to all your descendants for generations to come. A great tomb mound will rise above your resting place, marked by stone figures and inscribed tablets. But your true immortality lies elsewhere. Your sons, and their sons after them, will return to your tomb season after season, bringing food and wine, bowing to the earth, performing the ancient rites. Your name will be carved into the wooden tablets at the family altar, and for as long as your bloodline endures, you will receive offerings and prayers from your own descendants. Where the pharaoh chased immortality through gold and the Roman through marble monuments, you find yours in the unbroken chain of family devotion, generation after generation, bowing to your name. That was the life of Joseon Korea's ruling elite in 1500. A life of refined luxury and absolute discipline, ruled not by the sword, not by the throne alone, but by the brush, the book, and the ancient wisdom of the sages. They built a kingdom where teenage prodigies could outrank generals, where scholars dared to lecture kings, and where the entire civilization measured greatness in the quality of a man's mind. The age of the Yangban eventually ended, swept aside by the storms of the modern world. But the palaces still stand, the great gates of Seoul still rise above the city, the warm floors still glow in the old houses, and the elegant white robes and tall black hats still appear in the paintings and the memories of a proud nation. History remembers the empires of conquerors, but the Yangban built a kingdom that proved the highest power of all might be wielded not with a sword, but with a brush.